Fox News host Sean Hannity and former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows exchanged more than 80 text messages between the 2020 election and Inauguration Day. Hannity telling Meadows, "You also need to spend at least half your time doing business with us." Meadows replying, "We can make a powerful team. You are a true patriot, and I am so very proud of you. Your friendship means a great deal to me." Hannity responds, "Feeling is mutual." The January 6th committee has had these texts for months. Committee member Congressman Jamie Raskin saying, "Even with all the leaks, it's a very small fraction of the information we have that's become public. Most of the evidence has not been divulged. There's still witnesses the committee wants to hear from, including Trump ally Steve Bannon, who is currently indicted for contempt of Congress." The feds pushing back on Bannon's claim for stonewalling the committee, stating he was following government direction. Prosecutors saying it's not valid because Trump was not a government official at the time. And the committee is probing how seriously Trump considered using his emergency powers to overturn the election. GOP Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, again, denying that she was advocating the use of martial law.
Did you send a text asking for the president to declare martial law? Did you do that?
I don't recall those being my text messages.
Several are saying the only way to save our republic is for Trump to call for martial law. Martial was not spelled.
Keep going with the text message.
I don't know on those things. I just wanted you to tell him.
I don't know on those things. Is that what that says? It says I don't know on those things.
But why?
Wait, hold on,
stop.
This text message that's supposedly mine, I don't know if it is.
Joining me now, Emily Bazelon, legal writer for the New York Times Magazine and former Watergate prosecutor Jill Wine-Banks. Emily, what do you think Meadows meant when he told Hannity, quote, "We make a powerful team"?
I mean, I think it's really clear that what we're seeing here is that Hannity is not behaving like a journalist in any way that we usually use this term. And it's not a surprise. He also was on stage with Trump during the campaign. He really is an advocate and a kind of member of the administration, and he's using his pulpit on television to further the goals of the administration, or at least he was when Trump was in office.
Yeah, Jill, I agree that it's not particularly surprising that Sean Hannity would take this role. What then do you think the January 6th committee is gleaning from these communications, understanding this is a fraction of what they have?
I can't wait to see the rest of it because this is pretty terrible. I agree exactly with Emily. This is very bad. Journalistic ethics should have prevented any of this kind of communication. This wasn't hard-pressed fact questions that you, Alicia, might ask. It was advice to the administration on how they should behave, what strategies they should use, concern about whether the outcome was going to be what Hannity and Meadows both wanted and how they could get to that proper result. This is something that means that no one should rely on Fox News for any information because they are not a source of question and answers. They're a source of strategy for the Republican Party, particularly for Trump. And the January 6th committee can make a lot out of this and all the other information. I propose that there will be a blockbuster of a series of hearings that could make a difference to anyone who's willing to listen and give a fair shot to what they're going to hear.
And I do want to loop back to the question of those potentially blockbuster hearings. But before I do, Jill, January 6th Chairman Benny Thompson said he's going to be asking GOP lawmakers to testify. Take a listen.
We will ask more than 3 people.
This week?
Who are members, yes.
All Republicans?
At this point.
In the House?
Yes.
Any senators?
Yes.
Jill, your thoughts on how significant that is?
It's very significant, and I don't expect any of the people whose names I've seen listed as being willing to cooperate. So that means they have to be willing to consider issuing subpoenas. And there's no special protection for members of Congress. There's no reason why, as American citizens, they don't have the same obligation to provide necessary information in connection with a planned coup on our government, and they should be able to be subpoenaed if they don't respond to a request in a letter. And the letter pretty much will lay out why they have significant evidence so that a judge can evaluate the legitimacy of a subpoena.
Emily, I want to switch gears here a little, understanding that this is all about accountability. You have new reporting today from the New York Times. The Manhattan DA unlikely to indict Trump. Here's why. Witnesses have not heard from the district attorney's office in months. A key prosecutor has stopped focusing on a potential case against Mr. Trump. Prosecutors have abandoned the war room they used to prepare for their grand jury presentation. Your take, Emily.
You know, when Alvin Bragg, the new district attorney in Manhattan, came into office, it seemed as if the DA's office was close to a grand jury indictment. The outgoing DA made it clear he thought that that was probably warranted. Bragg came into office. He took a look at the evidence. He said, I don't think it's good enough. I think it's a higher bar to indict a former president, and I'm not comfortable. And a couple of the lead prosecutors, very experienced people, left the office. They resigned because they thought that was the wrong call. And so I think that what we're seeing is the kind of end of that process. At the time, Bragg said, you know, this isn't over, but it seemed clear that unless they came up with some new smoking gun, that this investigation was going to peter out. And so that's what you're seeing here. Bragg just got into office, so he is far away from having to campaign for re-election. But given how Democratic Manhattan is, it's going to be interesting to see how this follows him.
Jill, your thoughts on this looking like it's over?
Again, I agree with Emily, but I also think that it's clear that it's over. They've returned all the documents that Michael Cohen gave them. The prosecutors who were in charge of it have left. The grand jury is about to expire, and there hasn't been a request to renew it. Seems pretty clear that he's not going to act. And based on what we already know, it seems to me that there is enough evidence to get a conviction and to sustain it on appeal. Yes, there's a risk in any case against anybody, but particularly against Donald Trump, who may have a supporter on the jury who will never vote to convict. You could end up with a hung jury because of that. But remember, Manafort had a Trumper on his jury who said, I'm a total loyal Trumper, but I was sworn to do my duty as a juror, and I paid attention to the evidence, and he was guilty on all counts, so I had to vote to convict him on all counts. It's a risk that I would certainly take if I were in Alvin Bragg's position. I would definitely go ahead with it. The American people deserve it. The people of New York who voted for him deserve it. And I'm sorry to say that it does look like one more escape by Donald Trump. There are other things pending where he's not doing so well, but this one seems to be over.
Jill, you and I often talk about Donald Trump's Mary Poppins bag of legal problems. A judge today denied Trump's attempts to stop the contempt fine, saying Trump should have explained the methods he uses to store his records and efforts he made to locate the subpoenaed files. Your reaction?
Absolutely. You cannot say, I don't personally possess them when you're in charge of a big company. Of course, it's in the possession of someone within the company, but you are in charge. And so you can't evade your personal responsibility by saying, oh, it's not in my personal possession. Of course, it's not in his desk. He doesn't have his hands on it, but he can get it. And I think that the fine is something that will continue until he produces the documents. The fine can be doubled or trebled by the judge. He can be jailed for contempt of the court order, because he is violating a court order now. And so I think there are some consequences that will lead to some accountability, but it's not the same as finding him guilty of the actual underlying crime.